history. Elliot D, Jack Morgan. And it's a penalty to Italy. Broken in the ruins of Rome. Second consecutive championship. For the third time.
Can Finn Russell?
This to win the match for Finn Russell. And it's slid by.
To the races, needs support. A little bit slow getting to him, but it is there now. Dan Sheehan. Great pass from the hooker to James Lowe. And Ireland are going to finish it right here. And Jamie George has it at the back, but it's a long, long way to the promised land.
Right down there. And one stop nine.
France
Kick the point.
happy to stop that initial drive, but England use all their experience, and George, no better exponent at the back of that maul. Mitchell takes it. Back it goes. Through the centre. Daly goes. Daly! All day long. It's a try. The pack arrives. The refreshed French pack arrives. They arrive in numbers, and they've got players out wide. Peno's on one of those runs of his. BLBLE reaches to the sky, gathers and plays, and Prendergast goes after it, and BLBLE and Luku. But he is alongside. He is. There he is. What a moment.
Mesdames, messieurs, vainqueur du tournoi,
All right, let's do a wrap up of the 2025 Six Nations Championship, which was a brilliant championship in my opinion. I mean, the Irish have been dethroned, and we'll go through each team's ratings for this year. We have France back in the pedestal, as you can see in the bottom right there. England was knocking on the door, which I don't think many people predicted. And, you know, Wales were probably worse than anyone would have thought. But let's get into this one, the 2026 Six Nations team ratings for 2025. I'll move my ugly head out the way and let's get into it. So this is what I predicted beforehand. I made a video before, I guess, the Six Nations started. And as you can see, this was my prediction here. So I had France to win with 24 points, Ireland to win to be second with 20 points, Scotland on 16, England on 11, Italy with 7, and Wales on 2, where you can see France were on 21 in the end, England on 20, Ireland on 19, so off by 1 point, Scotland all the way down in 4th, and Italy, and then Wales. So I guess I predicted the champion, but I did not predict the points correctly. Now we move on to, and I mean, it could have been such a different ball game as well, couldn't it? I mean, England, you know, some narrow wins, and France having to win over in Ireland, just big matches in this year's 2025 Six Nations, which was brilliant in my opinion. But let's get into it. We'll start from the bottom of the table and we'll work our way up on the rankings with the ratings for the team. So you can see here, so if Wales, they get an F. That is just a complete failure of a Six Nations in my opinion. Nothing really to take positively out of this. I mean, you can see even in 2024, at the bottom right there, they finished on 4 points with a points difference of minus 51. So they scored 92 points, allowed 143. This year, they scored only 76, allowed 195, and only have 3 points this year. So it's even worse than last year. So for me, it's just a straight fail, that one. You can see the results here. Lost to France 43-0. Lost to Italy 22-15, which Wales scored right in the last couple of minutes to make it look better. Lost to Ireland, which was probably their best performance of the whole tournament. Lost to Scotland, even though, yet again, couple late tries made it look closer than what it was. And then just getting absolutely demolished by the English at home in Cardiff. Yeah, not a lot of positives, but the two positives for me, I'll do this for each team, is the players of the tournament for them. So I'll do a forward and a back. The forward for me was Jack Morgan. Man, the guy was just a tackling machine, led from the front, Is he a true captain? Not too sure, but he's definitely a captain that leads from the front, and he does all the hard yards. He does the hard tackling. And then in the backs, I got Ben Thomas. At the start of the Six Nations, when they had him in at number 10, he wasn't playing brilliantly. I mean, he was playing out of position. Gatlin put him there. But as soon as he moved back to 12, he suddenly, got into his own. And I mean, he had his best game against England, even though being smashed 68-14. He scored 2 tries and actually ran onto the ball quite hard. So I think that's probably the 2 shining lights for me for the Welsh team in this year's Six Nations, which was, a very, very bad Six Nations for them. Now we move on to number 5. We'll go to Italy with a C- for me this year. Same thing as you can see last year. They had 11 points, the most they've ever had. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses. I mean, it should have been 3 wins, let's be honest. They should have beaten France if Garbisi could have made that kick at the end. But it wasn't to be. So this year seems very much like a disappointment. 1 win and 1 bonus point, which you can see the results. Losing to Scotland 31-19. I mean, the game was very tight all the way onto the last 15 minutes, and then Scotland scored 2 late tries. Beating Wales in Italy 22-15. Then just getting demolished by France 73-24, which is very bad. Losing to England badly, and then only just losing to Ireland in a very, very brave effort. They could have won it, to be honest. That's how tight it was. They had the opportunities to, but they kept allowing penalties. They got a red card. They had 2 yellow cards as well. So, you're not going to beat Ireland if you allow that to happen. But players that stood out for me, Lorenzo Cannoni, absolutely brilliant. The number 8, he's bulked up big time. Scored a couple brilliant tries. Really a standout for me for them. And then obviously in the backs, Tommaso Menoncello, man. If you've been watching me on this channel for a little bit, you know how big of a fan I am of this guy. Whenever he goes in the field, he's professional. He's one of the hardest guys to tackle, and he always puts in 100%. I mean, he's like a flanker playing in 12, but with, obviously a center skills. So really, really rate him. And unfortunately, they just didn't get the results. I mean, they had 3 home games this year and didn't make the most of it. So that's why they get a C-. If they could have cranked out another win or even possibly not get blown out by England and France, then it might have been a C or a C+. But 3 home games and only getting the 1 win is probably not where they want to be. Then we move on to number 4, Scotland. Gave them a D+. I think this was a very average tournament for them. Very, very forgettable. I don't know where they go from here, to be honest. Every year we say the same thing. Is this the year Scotland steps it up again and actually wins the tournament, or even, wins more than just 2 or 3 games? It wasn't to be again. So first game started against Italy, getting a bonus point win. They lose in Ireland 32-18, where we're all expecting a tighter game, but Ireland, really schooled the Scottish in that game. Losing to England, where Scotland were the better team on the field, but just couldn't win the game. Scotland beating Wales, but allowing them in at the end again. And then just getting run over by the French in France. Yeah, I think it's just disappointing. At some point, I guess the Scots supporters has to go. We're expecting better. This was supposed to be our golden age where, we have players who are world-class all over the field and we just can't seem to win. And that's also 3 home games this year as well. So not the year this year. But let's move on to the players that stood out for me. Was Rory Darge, El Capitano, leading from the front. He was always up there with the most tackles made, hit the most rucks in the whole tournament, and also was one of the leading run makers as well, meter makers as well. So absolute brilliant performance, leading from the front as one of the vice captains. And then in the backs, Blair Kinghorn, man, led the whole league in meters made, most runs as well. So not for lack of trying on Blair Kinghorn's side. You can also see Scotland last year, they had 2 wins and 3 losses, exactly the same as this year. They scored 115 points last year. They scored 115 this year. Where last year they only allowed 115, this year allowed 131. And 12 points they finished on this year and 11 points they finished on last year. Oh, sorry, they finished on 11 points this year and finished on 12 points last year. So 1 point less and allowed more points and also had 3 home games. So just not taking a step forward. They just seem to be sitting on the same 4th spot for a while now. And we move on to number 3, who was Ireland this year. I gave them a B ranking, which at the end of the day, they only lost 1 game, right? You got to look at the results. They only lost 1 game. It's pretty hard to be tough on the team. Obviously, the expectations are a bit more, but only losing 1 game. You can't really hate on that. And also beating England as well in the first game, 27-22, which probably should have been a bigger win for the Irish if they didn't allow that late try for the English to get them bonus point, where, you know, it might have looked a little bit different at the end as well. So Scotland beating them 32-18, and then a very tight game against the Welsh, 18 all at one point, winning 27-18, pulling away with a few penalties at the end, and then losing the big one against France at home, where the French, I guess everything just fairly went right for them apart from Dupont getting injured, and just Ireland seemed flat. I guess maybe the occasion was a little bit too much at home, not too sure, but one team turned up, and then just scraping through to win against Italy. You know, for me, an A is the team that wins it. If you got undefeated, I think that's an A+. So a B is still a very good ranking, especially not having your coach there as well, being away. It's just that 1 game. You know, obviously you beat France, you win the tournament. So that's all it was. It came down to 1 game. The 2 players that stood out the most for me, Dan Sheehan in the forwards, absolutely brilliant, even scored a hat-trick in the last game. And then Jamison Gibson-Park, brilliant as ever. Couple man-of-match performances as well from him. So you can see here, last year, the Irish finished on 20 points, so only 1 point more, with an 84 points difference, which that's the difference right there. You know, and their defense last year, much better. Only allowed 60 points for this year's 117 points allowed, which is definitely something they'll look at with the defensive coach for sure. But all in all, only 1 loss. They win that game, they win the tournament, and go undefeated as well. So we move on to 2nd place, the English, who surprised many. I gave them an A. Really, really impressed with how they played. As soon as they beat the French in that game, I think, you know, that's when the team really turned the corner. They started playing, they started believing, they started realizing that, all right, this is all falling into place. And all those close losses, remember those close losses for how many years now England have been on the bad side of these close losses. You know, you look at the World Cup semi-final, 1 point loss. Last year, a couple of close losses as well. And then finally this year, they're on the winning side of it. And I think there was a couple of players who made that difference. I think, you know, Ben Earl was brilliant. Jamie George, who they put on the bench, I think he makes a big difference with just finishing out those games. He really did make a difference, winning the lineouts when they needed them to. So you can see all the results. Losing to Ireland the first game, beating France 26-25, beating Scotland 16-15 with Scotland's missed kicks, smashing Italy 47-24, and then putting record numbers on the Welsh 68-14 to finish the tournament. Players that stood out, Ben Earl in the forwards for me, absolutely brilliant. He didn't have a bad game the whole tournament. And then in the backs, Finn Smith. No real other backs stood out too crazy amount, but I think Finn Smith, since putting on the 10 jersey, he really stood up. His defense showed a bit of mongrel, and he also controlled the game a little bit more as well. And as you could see with the results, as he kept playing more and more time, you know, the results kept getting better because he kept feeling more and more comfortable, learning the plays, learning how to run the boys around, and that's what he done. You can see last year, the English finished on 14 points, 3 wins and 2 losses with a -5 points difference. And this year, England finished on 20, so 6 points more with a 74 points difference. So scoring the second most points in the competition, 179 points, where last year that would have been the most points. So it really shows their attacking coach must be very, very happy with the results that they got. So an A for them. And then at number 1, I got France. I put A on there as well. Like I said, I think, you know, with the team that they have, they should win this competition. So if they went undefeated, obviously they get the A+. But it is also kind of you know, it's finally that point where the coach has probably gone, finally, we're actually playing up to our potential and not choking. And I mean, they nearly did. Maybe the loss early on in the tournament maybe helped them to win the tournament because, you know, obviously beating Wales originally, losing to England in that nail biter, smashing Italy after that loss, smashing Ireland and smashing Scotland. So maybe that loss is what they needed to just kind of go, yeah, we need to step into gear now. Like, this is now or never, backs against the wall, and they performed. So players that stood out for me, the forwards, Francois Crowe, absolutely brilliant tackling machine, just hit the rocks, did the dirty work, and that's what they needed. And then in the backs, Louis Biarre, who's top try scorer, absolutely brilliant. Had the tournament of a lifetime, to be honest. You can see France last year finished on 15 points. Very disappointing for them. I mean, drawing against Italy, also the one loss. With this year, you can see, I mean, last year, only 6 points difference, right? This year, 125 points difference, 218 points scored. Just shows how close last year's competition really was, to be honest, because there's no crazy points difference last year, none over 100. It just shows how close the competition was, and France turned it around, beat the defending champions, multiple defending champions, at home. So to me, France, bravo. Like I said, I predicted them to win, but it's always good to predict something right like that. But at the end of the day, I did predict them to go undefeated, and each team losing a game sort of thing. I think that's good as well for the tournament. It shows that there's not just one team destroying every other team. I think it's obviously a good step if it keeps going this direction, and hopefully, you know, Italy and Wales can kind of pick up the game as well. And imagine a tournament where each team loses 2 games. Imagine how crazy that'll be if it could get that close and that high of a level that each team can beat each other maybe once or twice. But I'll end it on that. Let me know what you think about the rankings. You know, who would you rank best? Do you agree with all these rankings? Do you disagree? Let me know below in the comments. Definitely we'll get back to each other as well. We'll talk about this tournament and we'll see where we stand. I'll also do a team of the tournament coming up, which I'll do next. And then we'll also do a recap as well of the European Championship with Georgia winning it again and kind of seeing where the rest of the placings are. And then we'll also do more catch-ups on the Super Rugby and also the Super Rugby Americas, kind of see where those tournaments are every few weeks. But thank you for watching. If you've watched this long, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. And hit the like button as well. And I'll see you on the next video.